point, we really just have some logistics things to cover today. I think we got into the depth of the candidate review last time and we know who's moving forward, but I want to talk a little bit about logistics of the process. And so here's what we need to resolve. We want to resolve who is going to be on the first round interview team. We need to talk about how the scheduling for the interviews will be handled, particularly who will handle scheduling for the interviews. Length of time we should schedule for each interview. And then I wanted to talk about the idea of setting a pre-meeting with the interview team to do kind of a bit of a calibration, right, on what the structured interview process is and how that works. And then schedule a debrief session at the end once all the candidates have gone through first round. So that's the rundown of my items.
So do you want to start with your first one?
One moment.
Yep.
One quick moment. All I'm seeing is the agenda. Are there people behind that agenda or?
No, that's all we've got today.
Okay, very good.
Yep. Okay, so first round interview team, we talked a little bit about this in our last one, but I just wanted to see if you guys have finalized your decision on who you'd like to be involved in the first round interviews.
We invited Josh, Kevin, and Abby to join us today because we wanted to start that initial conversation. We kind of see it, guys, as some combination of board members and also having some staff participation on there. There were some concerns voiced on that. I know that all of us are really supportive of finding a candidate that works well with the existing team. So I guess I would ask for some feedback from you as a group of what you see, how your most effective participation in this process could be.
This is Abby speaking.
I'm speaking.
Hello. How are you?
I am fine.
Is there a way that we can have the three of us in on the interviews? I mean, we're the leadership team and we'll be reporting directly to this person.
I think we discussed that at the last meeting. And at this point, I would ask if we can to have the other board members talk about some of their views on how we might best coordinate staff feedback into the interviews. Who wants to open up that discussion?
Oh, I'm always good at least stepping over the line.
I knew we could count on you.
I would be fully supportive of having each of you, the three of you, plus this board committee, if you will, being in at this level. I think you all bring different insights and perspectives to what the expectations might be. You've clearly got some experience in what the organization needs and indeed what that leadership individual might best present. So I would only hope that, or I guess my thought would be that you would fill out the whatever we're calling these things, the response sheets, if you will, individually, and allow the board members to review your thoughts. I would hope to get input at whatever point in time or however we consummate this circumstance. Ultimately, the decision needs, I believe, to lie with the three board members, and at that stage in the game, not to make you a lesser member of the team, but quite frankly, I think the burden of making the decision and moving forward needs to lie with the board and not with the staff. So I would sincerely hope that you guys would be willing to play along here and share your wisdom and insights.
After hearing what Scott said, initially I was going to say I don't think we should be involved in the final prop pick. It sounds like that's what you've all decided. I like the idea of us being involved at this level to sort of be able to give the thumbs up, thumbs down on if we feel these initial candidates are qualified. And then from there, I would prefer to not be involved at the finalist stage. I think that is the board's decision. This person ultimately reports to you, and it's, I would say, the board's responsibility to find the person that will give you what you're looking for. But I appreciate being involved in the early stages and helping just determine who is the most qualified out of these initial ones. That's my thought.
McShann, do you have something you'd like to add?
Well, no, I was just going to kind of echo both what Scott and Kevin just said. I think that's the right approach. In initial stages, there may be certain things that you guys can highlight that we might not take into consideration, just because of not having, a history in working, as tightly as you guys have together, and things that may be pros and cons that we might not have on a bullet list for such things. So I think that's a good insight to have. And then kind of, like you said, Kevin, not be on the board or on the hook in the final decision making there. So just more information gathering, more points of discussion there would be good in the early rounds.
And the other thing I want to just, as a committee, I know the three of us all talked about was that we value the input from staff. I think that was something that we've looked back and regretted in past hiring decisions, et cetera, and we really would appreciate having that input. And I think each of you, as Scott said, has comes at the evaluation from a different viewpoint, but as a common viewpoint, hopefully, of the staff involved there at Visit Estes Park. Josh or Abby, you have anything you want to add to what Kevin had to say?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity for input, but on the other hand, also appreciate that input will be filtered through this committee and therefore by the board. I think that's kind of the perfect process.
Thank you.
Well, I think you can feel comfortable. It's at least my understanding that pretty much any of the paperwork, any of the discussions, anything at this tier of the interview process is not public in any way, shape, or form. If I understand correctly, the next level ultimately would be the entire board interview, which becomes a public creature. But your thoughts, insights, points of view, written, that sort of stuff is not going to be available to the public, to anybody for that matter, other than the three of us.
And I think that's important to maintain. If we're going to give our honest feedback, we don't want to give something critical and then have it be our future boss and they can just Google it and find out what.
Come back and bite you. Yeah, no, you need to feel comfortable in that regard.
Abby, did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. I was just going to say Josh took the words right out of my mouth. I do think it's really important for us to have some sort of input and say in this person, because this team has been here. I mean, Josh and I have been here for 5 years, keeping the team going, and Kevin was a couple years behind us. But so it's still, I appreciate how you guys see it's important to keep our team together and moving forward. So thank you.
Good. Lori, would it be appropriate? One of the things I printed off for today was I wanted to look again at the initial interview questions. And since we haven't asked for staff input on those initial questions for the initial group of candidates, I'd kind of like them to get back to us with any feedback they have on those.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think that everybody who's going to be involved in the first round should feel comfortable with the interview guide and the questions that we've laid out. Again, and I think we talked about this previously, everybody may not have been on, this is set up as a structured interview, which is a particular type of interview, meaning the goal is to do your best to ask the exact same questions of each candidate so that it makes the ability to differentiate and look at them after the fact easier. And so you guys being comfortable that it's covering the things that you most would need to hear in first round, you know, understanding that there's going to be a lot more detail into certain areas that'll probably come out in the finalist round. Love to have your feedback. The guide is out on the shared Google Drive, so you should all have access to it.
Who all has access to the Google Drive?
Give me one moment. I can tell you that. I'll pull it up here and I can get the list. Give me just a second to pull it up.
So while he's doing that, just to reiterate, I think then we've resolved who the first round team is going to be. It'll be 3 staff members and the 3 board members that are on this committee, right? 6 people total?
You
Yes.
got it.
Trustee Webenmeyer, the answer to your question is myself. I am the owner of the folder. Co-owner of that folder is Lori Graves and Erica Marburger. And then editors are Deborah Gibson, Josh Harms, Kendall Aiken, Kristen Campion, McShann Walker, Rachel Opperman, and Scott Webenmeyer. The 3 names on staff that you wouldn't think are involved in this helped create a lot of the graphics and the copy. That's why they're in here.
Well, it strikes me if we're going to ask you guys to participate, it's also appropriate for you to be able to at least review the resumes of and Lori's commentary on the individuals that we're planning on sitting with, rather than flying in blind.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And that's all out there. So if any of you, as you're going through that, have any questions on, if you're unable to find it, there you should be able to find an Excel sheet summary, the candidate list that has everybody that applied, but then it specifically has my overview of all of the initial screens that I did. And that's in the resumes folder. And also in that resumes folder, there's a lot of stuff out there. So it may take a little sorting around, but you should be able to find the resumes for each of the people that are going into the first round as well.
If you have any questions, you can, as a group, you might want to get back to Lori and she can update you on our conversation last week.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Lori,
let's go on.
the highlighted means that they are moving on.
Yeah, there's a column. It's kind of a beast of a spreadsheet, but if you scroll over, you can see there's a column that says advanced.
Oh, I see. You're right.
And I did highlight them just to visually make it a little easier. So yeah, as you guys go through that, feel free to call me, reach out to me with questions if you can't find information, but if you just have information or questions about some of the summaries that we went through with the committee last week, call me and I'm happy to chat with you.
And if you could, guys, if you could start looking at the questionnaire and anything that that you can think that we've missed or should add or change or whatever, it'd be really great if you got that input back to Lori and to the 3 committee members as soon as you can, so that we can hopefully incorporate that and get ready for that first rehearsal.
Right.
How do we do that without getting into a board meeting circumstance?
Just send it separately, I think.
Well, either that or send it straight to Lori.
Yeah, feel free to send it to me and I'll aggregate the responses that I get and just put out a revised version.
Yeah, you can back it out or run it past. I still think it's probably the 3 board members that make the call relative to what the questions look like. But once again, without good insight from staff, we're just wandering around in the closet. So,
Right. Yeah. Staff, you can each feel free to send me your feedback. And then, like I said, I'll do my best to aggregate it, put it into a marked up version with comments, and then we can decide what we change.